I see more people are coming in. I think we can get started, right? Welcome everybody to the Infrastructure Academy session. The fun and games continue here. This is a co-created 40-minute session. And together we will watch a video, play a game, and end with 10 minutes of questions and reflections at the very end. My name is Anila. I am the Academy Coordinator, typically based in Panama, but today I'm signing in from Santo Domingo. I will be supported by Mike, Arilda, and Shivani. I think they're all waving for you in the camera so that you see them and recognize them. So let's start with learning about the Academy. And I see a lot of familiar faces. Probably many of you already know about the Academy and what we do, but we'll show a short video about who we are and what we're about. And then we'll get started with the game right after.
Infrastructure damage from crises costs developing countries up to $650 billion a year. When infrastructure fails, it undermines livelihoods, lowers quality of life, hinders economic development, exacerbates inequalities, and delays the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. UNDP invests more than $1 billion a year in resilient infrastructure. So we need trusted experts equipped to support rebuilding communities for healthier lives, strengthened opportunities, and sustainable recovery. Professionals working on high-impact projects around the world gather in the Infrastructure Academy campus to exchange knowledge, network, and take strategic action.
Our role is to promote the construction of safe, built environments through the application of risk-informed development, but also to assist the countries to recover better and greener.
The comprehensive learning journey covers post-crisis assessments, debris management, climate change, and more. The Infrastructure Academy develops and strengthens the skills of infrastructure professionals working in crisis contexts with the ultimate objective of supporting communities to adapt and thrive in the face of the challenges brought about by disaster and conflict.
When you need to show the community that things are moving, that things are improving, infrastructure is the tangible expression of change.
So the video sums up what we're all about. Resilient infrastructure underpins development and social progress. It affects health and education and environment and just overall human well-being, which are all at risk when crises lead to infrastructure disruption. So let's get started with a game. We'll play this game. We'll unpack why infrastructure is so critical to our work. And this is another opportunity to earn those tokens that will be added to your dashboard. There's a special prize, and Jan Thomas already told you guys what the special prize is. So then that prize awaits the one person with the most tokens. Let's click the link on the chat. Shivani will be sharing that on the chat, and you'll be able to click and get started with the game. There we go. You click the link in the chat to start. The very first question that will come up will be on your email address. So just type in your email address and hit submit. You could also choose your name. And then the second one will definitely be about your email address. And the reason why is that we link your tokens that you earn here to your actual profile in your dashboard. You see the numbers rising on the screen. We have 41 of you, 42. All right, I think we can start with the first question.
Anila, are we still with the question of the email?
Yeah, you can put in your name or your email, and the one on the email that you used to register has just come up. So you will be able to add your email right now.
Okay,
And this is only to make sure that the tokens are linked to your account. So many of you are filling them in. 41 out of 52 of you in the room. Shivani just shared the link to the game in the chat as well. If you just joined, you'll be able to click on the link and get directed to the questions. I think the timer is running out. All right. So we'll start with our second question. This is a fill in the blanks question. Think of a number. The question is, what percentage of global greenhouse gas emissions come from infrastructure?
Answers are coming in. So this is kind of interesting because if you read the source, it's not only the greenhouse gas emitted from the actual construction, but also the operation of the facility. So it's the whole life cycle, including the returning of the asset back to its base value. So it's the full life cycle of that particular asset.
Right, so the
right.
correct answer is 79. What we build now will determine our ability to meet the 2050 net zero targets outlined by the Paris Agreement. And we're moving on to the third question, and that is, infrastructure is at the center of how many sustainable development goals? Is it 3, 5, 10, or 17?
All right, guys. Well, the source for this particular answer is UN Ops in 2019 through the Economist report. And building the right type of infrastructure can help meet our climate goals, reduce inequalities within societies, provide access to sustainable energy, and much more. A function and resilient infrastructure is the foundation of every successful community. However, it does not mean that this is easy, right? This is not something for the weak of heart. So in this case, it requires coordination, long-term planning that stretches across geographic, political, and cultural boundaries. You see, infrastructure is a cross-cutting technology that contributes to all the rest of the SDGs. Simply put, we cannot meet the SDGs without infrastructure.
And many of you got it right. As Mike just hinted, it's central to all of the SDGs, which is all 17 of them. And we can continue to the fourth question. So for every dollar invested in climate resilient infrastructure, how many do we actually save? 2, 4, 6, or $8?
What an intriguing question, right? And our source for this particular answer is again from a UN press release from 2019. If we could only invest in infrastructure resiliently from the very beginning, we could dramatically reduce the costs of recovery. We do not have the resources on this planet to continue to rebuild infrastructure without resilience. We can and we will do better.
We're already getting a sneak peek of the dashboard, and the correct answer was $6. 12 of you got this right. There is a strong economic case for climate resilience and disaster risk reduction really being central to investments in new housing, new schools, new hospitals. For every dollar invested in making infrastructure more climate resilient, $6 can be saved. So this means that investing in climate resilience creates jobs, and it also saves money in the long run. This was it on the questions that we had prepared for you. Let's take a look at the leaderboard, and then we can also elaborate a little bit on each one of them. I think we went quickly on the first question. There's a few more insights that we could share, but let's see the leaderboard and which ones of you are at the top three. So we have Yadak, Oksake, Alexander Viver, and Prabesh. Those are the winners for this round of questions, and respectively, those are the first, second, and third question. Your tokens will be transferred to your account and will be reflected there. Congratulations to everyone. So everybody who played, I think, will receive some tokens, no matter if you got your questions right or wrong. There's just the quantity of tokens that will be distributed will depend on that. So Mike, you want to maybe go ahead with the key takeaway, the big picture, why infrastructure or resilient, sustainable infrastructure is critical?
Yeah, and of course, as an engineer, I'm a little bit biased, right? I admit it, towards infrastructure. But as I like to say, if you are pro-education, if you're pro-healthcare, if you're pro-livelihoods, then you are pro-infrastructure. And why is that? Well, infrastructure connects those very important assets to everyone, including the most vulnerable, so that everybody realize their dreams. So the big picture here is resilient infrastructure underpins the development and social progress, health, education, environment, and overall human well-being that are at risk when crisis leads to infrastructure disruption.
That's exactly it, Mike. For too long, really, infrastructure has been understood and almost evaluated solely by the presence of a building or a completed roadway or a dam, big infrastructure projects. And we know, however, that a hospital, for instance, cannot function without a solid waste system, and a solid waste system in turn cannot function without the applied knowledge and institutions and underlying resources that are necessary to manage it. Yet when we talk about infrastructure, this understanding beyond the immediate is still too often overlooked. So we need to shift and really create that shift in this thinking. And this is kind of what we also do at the Infrastructure Academy, because a lot of our work and training opportunities are focused on community infrastructure. And so a lot of the courses and advice and best practices and lessons learned are around the work that UNDP does in community infrastructure in crisis settings. So
yeah,
I think.
Yeah, and if you think about it, folks, as we try to recover our economies in a post-COVID environment, this truly is a once in a generational opportunity, right? And so that's why we feel it's so critical that we provide everyone the tools that they need to join this cause. And I think now, Anila, we're going to have an opportunity for folks to participate and provide some of their stories, right?
That's exactly right. We have a few minutes. I think we have around 10, 12 minutes for any thoughts, any questions. You can raise your hand or write in the chat. We also posted a video with some information on the Infrastructure Academy. You can also reply to that. But here I already see a couple of hands up, both virtual and physical. I saw the virtual one by Hector. Hector, you can go ahead and share what you have in mind.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hector from the UNDP Honduras Country Office. I was recalling that it has been a long way since the first edition of the HPDA course. I have been with the Infrastructure Academy since then. I'm also in other academies like Surge Academy and Nexus Academy, because it has become a sort of a passion for me, learning about all these humanitarian responses and activities that are going on. One of the things I have liked best of being part of these academies is the way that the learning has developed. It's not only reading, but the opportunity to share with people that are getting their hands dirty in the ground and seeing the progress and the impact that the projects have had on the people is pretty amazing. One of the things that I love best of one of the sessions was the quality of the schools, for example. I'm from Honduras, and I can tell you for sure we do not have schools like that in Honduras, at least in the public sector. And I'm not talking about emergency situations. Also, I have been reflecting on the Build Back Better initiative. Since I am in Central America, we are very prone to hurricanes, floods. In Honduras, not so many earthquakes, but one thing that doesn't make a click for me is that we always have the people return to the same places, but with the same type of houses. So we came from ETA and IOTA with a whole lot of damage in the north coast of the country. And we had Julia passed a long way from Honduras, and we were in exact same situation. And because people are thinking that the government has to solve the problems. And that's the other thing that I have learned in these courses, that the empowering of the communities, having them working side by side with the experts, building their own homes, debris management. I mean, it's been so much things that we have learned that, well, I hope to have one day the opportunity to participate in one of these exercises. I'm an ICT guy. As Michael said, I'm an engineer also, but of another kind. And I think that ICT also has something to give to these kind of exercises. So thanks a lot.
Thanks so much, Hector. And I think you brought up a really important point. You said I'm an ICT guy and not necessarily that type of engineering that we're talking about. And this is, case in point on the types and the scope and range of different professions that we have in the Infrastructure Academy campus. We have professionals working on programming and monitoring and evaluation and data and civil engineering and project management. And so this is not a space exclusively for civil engineers, but really for everyone who has an interest in infrastructure. I see a few questions in the chat, a hand up by Jean Hodge, and also Pravesh had a physical hand up. You want to go ahead, Pravesh?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Arinda. Well, colleagues, my name is Pravesh. I'm working in UNDP Myanmar. I'm a civil engineer with a master's in environment management. I would like to share my experience learning experience with the Infrastructure Academy. As everybody said, that infrastructure is vital to meet the sustainable development goals. Infrastructure is key to reduce impact of climate change. It is important for people like us who are working in the field in crisis setting to update knowledge, access to new resources, and learn from the experience of other countries. This gap has been bridged by Infrastructure Academy. I was also able to present about a project I was involved in, that is the Nepal earthquake 2015. I was able to learn from many colleagues and interact about innovative solutions which are being led by different UNDP offices. This has been an enriching experience to update my knowledge with new innovative approaches and experiences. I would like to thank all the trainers who were who were always available for queries we had. Also, the team space is very instrumental to share and learn from each other. I would like to congratulate the team for a successful learning interventions and benefiting people like us in the field. Thank you so much.
Wow, thanks so much, Pravesh. And I think you really pointed out a critical component of the Infrastructure Academy. It's not just the training opportunities that we prepare for you, but we strive for this to be an all teach, all learn environment that Mike really likes to, he really likes this phrase. And I think it's spot on because it's just as much about those peer-to-peer interactions and knowledge exchange and somebody just having a question or encountering a challenge and being able to put that down in a post on the team space and be able to get answers and responses from others in other UNDP country offices on how they were able to maybe find creative solutions to a similar challenge in their own context. So thank you for pointing that out. Over to Jean Hodge as their hand up, and then maybe Mike can address the infrastructure specific questions that we have in the chat right after.
Thank you, Anila. Thank you. My name is Jean-Deep Haj from Lebanon. I'm not an engineer. I'm a capacity development expert, but I was so much interested in the infrastructure breaking room because in Lebanon, we are witnessing a severe crisis that is demonstrated in the collapse of our infrastructure. We don't have electricity. It's just 1 hour every day. And because of the lack of power, the pumping stations of drinking water are not functioning as they should. And now we do have a cholera widespread in Lebanon. We do have a lot of severe problems caused by the melting down of the infrastructure, whether it is power, whether it is the roads that lack any maintenance, and the number of casualties from road accidents is increasing tremendously. Also, we had a major explosion in the port of Beirut in 2020, and until now we are still suffering from the destruction of the most of the infrastructures in the capital, Beirut. UNDP have been trying to respond to this severe crises all over the country, and that is being made worse by an economic collapse and the devaluation of the local currency. What I'm interested in the Academy is to see a kind of an exchange of innovative success stories in terms of community infrastructure. What could be done in small communities, whether it is rural or urban areas, to deal with the problem of power, problem of clean water, problem of sewage treatment, problem of old houses that would require immediate maintenance. This would be extremely important if it is shared by the academy or if it is facilitated by the academy. Thank you.
Thanks so much, John. And that's precisely what we do at the Infrastructure Academy, right? And I think the example of Lebanon is exactly one that tackles all the different parts of the training opportunities that we have offered this year. I think it would be relevant, like the post-assessment, post-crisis assessment training was directly relevant because the household and building damage assessment was done in Lebanon after the explosions at the port in Beirut. The climate change related trainings, the project management trainings. And so I think a lot of the training opportunities that we've put out would be directly relevant to the case that you were mentioning. We'll make sure that you're part of the campus if you're not already. And yeah, there's a bunch of other questions in the chat too. I wonder, Mike, you wanna take the one on the elements or must-haves of resilient infrastructure? A question by Mariana.
Looking at what the risks are of that infrastructure that we hope to put into place. So not only the risk of whatever the crisis was caused by, if it's a hurricane or an earthquake or conflict, but all of the risks that that asset might be exposed to. And then, of course, our first choice is to see if we can eliminate that risk. That might be move that asset. But in many cases, we can't move our house, right? We can't move our entire community. We just simply don't have time. So in those cases, then we need to do mitigation. And mitigation means that we build back resiliently. We build back with roofs that aren't going to blow off. We build back at maybe a higher level like Prabesh did in Vietnam, where he's above that flood area and provides a safe space for people if indeed a flood comes. So these are the fundamental steps. And I think now maybe we could toss it over to John Marco to get his question and comments.
Yes, I don't know if you can hear me. My name is John Marco. I've been working for many years. Infrastructure.
Is it just me, but I can't hear John Marco? The audio keeps breaking up.
Sorry, I might have a problem with my audio.
I heard you really well at the beginning of that sentence and then it broke up again. Sorry.
Yeah, must be.
Maybe try again. If it doesn't work, then you can put in your question in the chat.
Yes, that's all good.
All right. Thanks so much. Then maybe in the meantime, as you type out your question, we can address a couple of more that we have in the chat. We have about 7 minutes for questions. There's one by David. Maybe Mike, you can take this one as well. And similar, like how do we overcome the same issue of overly contributing to GHCs with infrastructure development? We are in the COP season, so reduction remains a central theme linked to NDCs. Any acronyms?
Right, and I think we're always in climate resilience season, right? So for me, it's really a change in mindset. I do a biodigester, not only enough energy to power the plant, but possibly even some of the surrounding community. So I think that's the kind of mindset that we want to use, is not only just look at how to build that particular asset as quickly and cheaply as possible, but also think about how that might be able to be utilized to address our climate change. Because I think there's a lot of hidden nuggets like wastewater that can help us address the bigger picture of greenhouse gases and climate change. Back to you, Anila.
Great. Thanks, Mike. I'm checking the comment section. And there's a question by Lenita. How do we best monitor and evaluate resilient infrastructure? I think it's somewhat related to what you were covering just now, Mike.
Well, I would say, how do I evaluate resilient infrastructure? I go back and visit it after the next crisis, right? If we've done our job, it's still there. And in that same light, you know, a lot of times we see so many pictures of the disaster and all of the damage and destruction, and it pulls on our heartstrings. But us as climate change folks, as well as infrastructure folks, we learn a lot from this infrastructure that hasn't been damaged, right? You'll see me on site always going to that building or that bridge or that community that hasn't had any damage to it. And we can learn a lot from those examples, as well as from the ones that have been damaged. So that's how I do our evaluation, is if we really are able to stand up to the next test, like we have been striving to achieve.
Great. Thanks so much, Mike. And I'm seeing a lot of questions in the chat about joining the Infrastructure Academy activities and being UNDP staff or non-UNDP staff. We will provide the link and more resources in an email that's coming up. So you'll be able to learn more and even join the campus. Although you may or may not be UNDP or have a UNDP account, you should be able to be part of the team space and be part of those conversations and share your own lessons learned and best practices from your experience in the field. So that's totally doable, and we'll provide that in a follow-up email. There is a question related to bidding, Mike. I wonder if you can take that briefly, by Kai Stabel in the chat. What is being done to make the bidding process for projects more inclusive of local and regional actors? They have past experience in Iraq with building projects together with UNDP.
Yeah, this is actually one of the passions of mine, is when we do procurement, we want to make sure that we procure locally, if at all possible. And one of my examples is that, first of all, we want to be able to go and look at the capacity, be it either the professional capacity for design or the capacity of the construction and materials locally. I think many times we miss the fact that there's a lot of capacity left in the country. Maybe a disaster occurred, but it impacted 20% or 25% of the country. And we look at that and say, oh my goodness, you know, how can they ever recover? But the reality is there's still 75% of the country that has not been impacted. And they want to help their country to recover. So we need to tap into those resources, get creative about how we can have them come and be part of the recovery process, because they're passionate to contribute to their country's recovery as well. So I think for me, you know, some people have said it's just all about procurement, but I look at it as it's our job to really look at that existing capacity locally and figure out creative ways to engage it, instead of just sending out requests for proposals and looking at who we get a response from.
That's great, Mike. Thanks. I think there's one question in the chat that hasn't been addressed. If I'm seeing everything correctly here, there's many, and I'm scrolling back and forth. There's a question by Jose Parra. Does UNDP have documented good practices of applying and HRBA, which I think is a human rights-based approach to resilient infrastructure, for instance, through the principle of participation of communities and affected peoples into building back better and ensuring resilient infrastructure. Specifically to HRBA, no, but we talk about exactly this, the principle of participation of communities, affected people, in all stages of implementation of infrastructure, really, from design to actual implementation and follow-up. And so we do address these underlying principles in quite a few of our training courses. So I guess the answer would be yes to that. I think we have 1 minute left, and with that we can wrap up. You will be able to stay here in this room and you will be automatically redirected to the main room. But thank you so much for participating actively in this session and co-creating this wonderful session. The room, as I said, will close shortly. It will be automatically redirected. You don't need to do anything. We'll share more information on the Infrastructure Academy via email and also in the very last session. So stick around for more information on that. Thank you and see you in the main one.
And we all look forward to working together on this very important topic, right? So this is too important to not really engage.